Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to learn how to fetch data from an API using custom hook. You must have seen custom hook are mostly like this in React, right? So we are actually going to create our very own custom hook and we are going to learn how we can actually create fetch data using that custom hook, right? So I will create a new custom hook called use fetch.js here, and let me just open this one. And here what are we going to do? Again, it is even custom hook is going to be a function, right? So it only starts with the use keyword. So we're going to write use fetch, and this is again going to be an arrow function, right? So what this function is going to do, this function is going to actually return us a couple of things, right? Data it's going to return, that is the data of the API, if there is any error or if the data is still loading or not, right? So for that we will create separate states. Let's say data set data, which is going to be use state, and initially the data is going to be null. And similarly there is a loading state, right? Is loading, or we can simply write loading, and here we write set loading, which is again going to be an use state. Initially loading is going to be true, because when the API hits back, I mean the gives the response back, we will give put it as false, right? Also we are going to post an error and use state, and initially it is also going to be null. So we have three separate states, and let's do one thing. Let's simply return these data and error and loading. I'll show you and I'll tell you why I did what I did, right? So now since we have to fetch an API, what we are going to do is we are going to use a use effect hook, and here how we define it. And in the dependency array, we are going to have a URL, right? So we are going to put a URL. So whenever there is a URL, this has to do a certain thing, right? Inside of this use effect, we are going to create our function which will actually do it. It is called fetch data, and what fetch data will have? It is actually going to be a async function because it is going to do a asynchronous operation, that is fetching an API and fetching data from an API. And so we are going to write sync here, and this is going to go into a try block, and if there is a try block, it will also have a catch block, right? So in try block, what we are going to do is we're going to write const, and here const is going to be response, which again will await, because it's async and it has to await the API. So here we will simply put a fetch function, that is inbuilt function of that is in JavaScript. So we'll put URL, right? This will actually fetch the response for us. But if there are chances that response dot, this is the way how we, if the status is 200 or not. If it's not, that means if it's not, what we're going to do is we are going to throw a error straight away. We're going to write error, and what that error is going to say, that error is, what am I doing? Error is going to say HTTPS error, and whatever, yeah, that is what it is going to do. And if not, that means if the response is okay and I mean there is no problem, we simply have to uh, put it back. Let's put it back into results, and here again we have to await the response, and we have to convert the response back to JSON format, right? So once JSON is there, because that's what our browser will understand, so we're going to simply set data as result, and also set loading as false, right? So loading has happened, data we have set, and all we have to do is put errors also. So again, catch is going to have errors. So simply in set error, we are going to put error, and again set loading. Here also will be false, because even if we get an error or not, loading has to go false, because that's how we will stop the loader. Now we have a function here, but we have not invoked it. So simply we'll write fetch data, and that is it. right? So simply here instead we don't have an export, so we will simply write export const and use fetch. Now you can see use fetch. This is, I hope it's ready. So let's use it in our uh, application. So I'll write const, and we have to destructure the response. So the data from the use fetch. So use fetch is going to get a URL, and then we will have data obviously. Then we'll have a loading state and also an error. So for fetching data, what we are going to do is we are going to use this particular API. So I'll just copy this and put it uh, right here. So you can see this is a JSON placeholder API. So I'll simply copy it and I'll put it into this particular URL. And for a second, I'll just console.log data. I will log loading also, and I'll log error also. So I'll simply save it, and let's open the, what is this? I think this is what, yeah. So this actually opens the, what is this? So yes, so I'll simply refresh it. So you will see initially the loading was true, right? So we can also put the same things here. So if loading is true, right? So what are we going to do is we are going to put h1, which will say loading, like that, right? And so now if I refresh, you will see momentarily there was this loading, and as soon as the data is here, this gets populated into the state. And let's say if we want to just loop through this data, what we're going to do is we're going to do data. We have to check if data is there, right? Data. So let's say what was the structure of data? So it's a array of objects, right? So we have data dot map, and again we are going to write entry. Just one second, we're going to write entry, and here we will simply return a div. Okay, let me just check what was there. So we are going to write, we are going to print names here, right? So we'll simply return entry dot name. And what are we going to return? This we are going to return in a list, in a unordered list. So I'll just put it here, and outside of this, you can see you automatically got a list. So if we change the API and put it a value of 10, this actually, uh, okay, let me just, you see now the error is here, but I think the API was wrong. So yeah, this is, at least the API is correct. You can, even if you refresh, momentarily a loading will come. And now you see most of the work is hidden inside the use fetch function. And whatever you see on the app is a very clean code. And that's how uh, the experienced developers do. So yeah, that's all for this video. The link of this code sandbox will be in the description. And if you find this video helpful, so do subscribe to the channel and do share it with your friends who share similar interest. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.